I put on the computer, and it was a woman preacher preaching about, because this world is run on the back of energy, loosh and light, harvested from these innocent children. They get fucked to death and killed and made into, prized, shoes or a leather coat, some sort of trophy for the person who was responsible for killing, the little girl from Poltergeist or whoever, as Macaulay Culkin freely spoke out into the world about. And nobody, it's like anyone could reveal this, not so well hidden truth, because most people don't want to face it, because that's where even the hardcore conspiracy heads, they sigh and take a step back. And I know, because I did it myself and I did it for years. They can't touch it. It is a truth that's not even worth looking at for some or for most. Or for most, actually, let's be honest, the truth in general is not worth looking at for them. My ex-boyfriend told me, I just don't want to know, I don't care. People don't want to know the news if the news is bad. The news is bad believing what you think that the world is, because your idea of what this physical world we live in is all lies for the most part. It's all untrue. So why would, I don't know, but to half of the population it seems like, they've already started living out the prophetic Bible, prophecy that says in the last days they'll start calling evil good and good evil. Not good. Or rather, not evil. Hard to say. So when half the people think that evil is good and the other half still think that good is good, how do you know which one is good? How do you know when you don't have a God who wrote it all down for you way, way a long time ago for you to read in case you ever get confused? Question mark. You need God for that. And it's like, as lame as God's made out to sound these days, that's all by design. And it's like cringe as Jesus Christ is made to look for a while now, that's all by design. It's all predicted programming. Sorry, it's not predictive programming, it's just programming. It's programming to make everyone think Jesus is a bitch. Sorry, Lord, I don't think that. Even though he's like the hardest, street thug of them all. And he will sea-walk on your face if he has to. He'll flip over the tables and be like, what? And he'll say some stuff that most of y'all would not have half a ball enough courage to say to anyone, because everyone's afraid of everyone. Everyone's afraid to tell the truth. When people do tell the truth, like me, I experience this a lot. When I do tell the truth, people don't any longer want to fuck with me when their truth conflicts with their ego's false truth about themselves or about the world or about whatever. And for all the ever-growing pile of narcs and BPDs and histrionics these days, as that number increases, it just gets harder and harder to have a hardcore crew. Harder and harder when they're all offended by you. Because the truth is offensive to those who believe and actively live a lie. And those same people will call me self-righteous. I'm not self-righteous. I don't think I'm great. I think God's great. I think God's great, and I pay attention a little bit more than some people to what he's been trying to say. Because I read the Bible, and they don't, a lot of them. We're living in a biblically illiterate world. If you're not reading the Bible daily as a Christian, you're not standing there in your full power with God's Word, which is where the power comes from, knowing God's Word, because God's Word is un-F-withable. You cannot F with God's Word. People are like, I don't know about the Bible. Don't you think that it's been messed with over time? What about the King James Bible? It's like, if you don't think that the God who created everything in this world is powerful enough to make sure that his Bible never got messed with by man, by these cucks? Mankind? You're tripping. You must not believe in the same God as me, because my God is so powerful, you could not begin to hope to mess with his word, even if you were a king, even if you were a queen, even if you were a flying dragon. God is still the Alpha and the Omega, and nobody can mess with his anything unless he allows it. Satan couldn't mess with Job until he went to God and asked for God's explicit permission to try to ruin Job's life, make him miserable, make him in open weeping, cussing sores, kill his kids, kill his flock, burn his house down, open sores, did I mention? The dog's licking him, and he's eating, bird turds off the floor. I don't really remember the ins and outs of the whole thing. And then his friends show up, and his friends are like, Job, WTH, what is wrong with you? Job, you're on drugs, you've relapsed, and you're suicidal, and you've been suicidal for a year. And Job's like, what? Get the hell off my property. And they're like, yeah, Job, you're suicidal. It's like, are you speaking a witchcraft curse onto me? I'm, of course, doing the podcast version of a subtweet right now, because this is what happened to me 1 week after I left the hospital. Still had staples in my clavicle, and a former friend showed up telling me about myself as if it was news to me, which it was, to be honest, and as if it had some semblance of my reality in it, when it didn't, And even if it was 150% true, is that how you approach a friend that you think is suicidal and has been for a year? Get the fuck out of here. That's when you kick the person off the property because you know you're dealing with a compromised, barely there individual. Period. Somebody who's already decided without coming to you and speaking to you is compromised, is not on your team in the first place, and is probably gonna get you 5150, which for the foreign to California people is a psych evaluation for people who might hurt themselves or somebody else. That's where they take you on a 72-hour hold to the mental hospital. After 2 police officers violently handcuffed me behind my back while I had 1 week not even out of the hospital, mere days, maybe 1 week almost from the surgery. The staples were still in my skin holding it together, and 2 LA police officers, LAPD police officers, violently handcuffed for no reason, my hands behind my back, with my freshly broken clavicle with 6 screws and a metal plate in it and staples over the skin to hold the skin together. They violently, unnecessarily handcuffed me and kept me like that for a long period of time under a completely false flag 5150. Thanks to a former friend of mine and a former boyfriend of mine who was trying to leave town to go get his dick sucked in London, back where he comes from. After don't get me started. I send out love to both of these people, these clone, drone-bot, heartless people who have only ever cared about themselves and cared about me when it was some sort of gain for themselves, when it made their movie a great movie. Maybe I'm talking about the movie of life, or maybe I'm talking about a literal horror film that is my life. It's okay, because somebody with a life as just horrendous as mine's been must be favored by God. Because God only sharts on the ones he loves the most. And so, man, he must be a humongous fan of mine. I put on the computer, and it was a woman preacher